All right, so we're gonna walk through first your mobility. We're gonna first want you to understand your anatomy and how your anatomy affects how your body can move, right? So your pitching mechanics is a reflection of like what you're telling your body to do, but it's also a reflection of what your body can actually do. Okay, so it's kind of like the final result, what we're trying to get to, and we're going through the body first. Okay, so this is your mobility. These are going to be the elite ranges. Trunk rotation, so this can be thoracic rotation. That's going to be it's restricted. So what that means is we're trying to create energy in the ground and pump the energy through the body. We're trying to sequence it through the body. What's the sequence? Hip rotation to trunk rotation to shoulder rotation. Okay, so you're going to have a hard time as your hips are rotating holding your trunk back. And the more time I can delay between each rotation, the more time I have to accelerate more energy. So it's advantageous to delay those segments as much as you can if you can keep pushing energy up. So you can be a little tight in your trunk rotation. Your hip abduction is pretty good, so you can spread your legs out. That was this one. Your ankles are pretty tight, so that means they're probably weak. So you're gonna have probably harder time to create energy through the ground. So we work on that through deep squatting, just so we can have both ankle strength and pelvis stability. Your femur rotation is tight, specifically an internal. Your external is not too bad. It's just your internal. So the problem with the internal is if I take this femur and I do this, that's what opens my hip. And you only have 10 degrees, so you can only do that. So that means you're gonna have a really hard time rotating your pelvis, which means you're gonna have a hard time sequencing that energy up, okay? So these are things that we have to really tackle and overcome. Your hip extension, specifically on your right side, really tight. That's when that knee came back, which means if you're able to get low enough and build a long stride, you're gonna have a hard time in that stride to open your hips again. So you have two things working against your hip rotation, is your trunk, your femur internal rotation, and your hip extension. Your horizontal abduction is weak too, meaning your scap load is there's not a lot of range there. Could be just weak upper body. When you're 16, strength is usually something that needs to be built when you're young. Your total body strength wasn't bad though. You could have some good core strength. You'd say that wasn't bad. Grip strength's a little poor. You can improve that to just keep your arm healthy. Your power and your speed is below average though. So definitely need to get more explosive. And that's important. You gotta understand, like, this is velocity. Like, you're not gonna, people who have good mobility can get away with less speed and power because they have more time to grow it. But you're not showing a lot of time, so it's like you need both. You need mobility and you need speed and power. Your Y balance test, this has a direct correlation to your ability to use your kinetic chain. You're looking at a lot of pelvic stability there. It's some areas it's good, other areas it's poor. So definitely, just at your age, you can really, right up front, you're gonna see a big gain of velocity just by doing the lifting, doing the conditioning, doing the mobility training. It's gonna be, most of your improvements are gonna come out of this, okay? So as we move over to your pitching, take you out a leg lift, okay? So I'm looking at the moment you wanna open your front foot, which is about right here. And I'm looking at where that shin is. So your back leg is what propels pelvis rotation. Studies show your back leg is the biggest impact of angular impulse, meaning angular or rotational energy of your hip. Problem is when your shin is up and down, we call that the force vector. When you go to create that energy, it's gonna go wherever the shin is. And if it's up, you're not gonna jump. So what you're gonna do is you're probably not gonna drive. You're just gonna kind of lay it down. And as you can see here, you just kind of lay it down. So you're even hitting with your foot down. Once again, too, now you're in that position where you don't have a lot of internal rotation in your femur. So you're gonna probably have a hard time getting your hip just to come around. Or what's probably gonna happen is it's just gonna bring everything around together. So let's look at the kinematic sequence. You might want to show this over here too. So the kinematic sequence is looking at foot plant, maximum external ball release. These lines here, the hard to see, the black lines are them. So this is foot plant where you are right now. You can see at foot plant, your torso and pelvis rotation are pretty much the same, pretty close. So we don't want to see that. We should be seeing the hips peaking well above the trunk. It's good that your awareness to keep your trunk back is there. So you have that good awareness to land and stay close. But we don't have the pelvis rotation to go with it, which means there's energy coming up my body, okay? And then you can see here at maximum external rotation when your arm lays back right here. Okay. Your pelvis rotation looks like it's still peaking, is it? Yeah, it's still peaking. So you don't want your pelvis rotation peaking into maximum external rotation. It's too late. Or it's peaking just before it. But it won't hold, come on, there you go. But the trunk rotation is actually not too bad. But you don't have a lot of external rotation. You don't have a lot of layback. That is, to me, upper body strength, because you didn't have a lot of scap loading. Or you didn't have a lot of range of motion and scap loading. So your upper body strength is weak. That'll allow that to lay back better. Because what happens is now you're killing the time in another segment, the time to push energy to the arm. When you cut that time off, you're going to get less energy to the ball. So upper body strength, ultimately at that point, and more forces coming up, the arm should want to load back against those forces. And then if we go to pitch release, okay. I think the issue you're going to see at pitch release is how vertical everything is, and that just kind of shows you like the lack of energy that has been pushed up. So I'm looking at trunk flexion. That's forward trunk. You can see you ran out of trunk flexion energy just before pitch release, or coming out of external rotation. Let's see if it keeps going. And then it still kind of goes later. So there was pretty much a dip. So basically your trunk went forward right into landing. You can see it went forward right into landing. And then it slowed down, and then you release the pitch, and it kind of went forward again. So when I see that herky jerkiness, there's not really a good thrust of energy. It's like, oh, I've got some stability, I can create a little energy, and then I run out of energy, and then I release, and then I pick up more energy. There wasn't a good thrust of energy through your body, right? So we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to build the anatomy to do it better. But we've got to get the shin linear, we've got to get the propulsion through it at landing, so then we can funnel it up. And if we get enough in, and we have enough mobility and stability to load against it, we should be able to transfer it better, build it better. Because ideally, I want to see you at release with a big forward trunk into release. That means I pushed all that energy forward through the body, through the ball. If I'm finishing like this, it means I really didn't push a lot of energy into my body, and my arm's definitely not going to be able to make up for that. It's over here, you can see your slots are dropping, and it's probably just because when you don't have a lot of forward energy, you use the glove and you create all that rotational energy. And when you start using the glove, the centrifugal force starts dropping and swinging your arm. Okay, and then you're more in a sidearm slot, the way this is showing. And all your brakes are horizontal. Okay, so ultimately, as you get more linear energy and you delay your trunk, which you delay your trunk well, it's one thing you did well. You should see the energy coming up here, because what happens is rotational energy, your arm goes that way. Linear energy, your arm goes that way, because that's where the energy's going. The arm literally just goes where the energy's going. Okay, so once we start pumping more energy forward, we're more likely going to see your slots come up too, which will be better.